I, male, 31, think my estranged father, male, 57, and his new wife are taking advantage of me. Some background. My parents split up when I was 9. My dad, Rick, wasn't exactly father of the year material. He'd show up for a weekend here and there, always with big promises about trips we'd take or things we'd do together that almost never happened. He was super inconsistent with child support, like my mom would sometimes have to chase him down for months. But he's always maintained this narrative that he was this amazing devoted dad who sacrificed everything for me. In his version of events, he was practically a saint. In reality, he'd forget birthdays, miss school events, and then act like sending a random $50 gift card at Christmas made him dad of the year. I basically cut contact with him when I left for college at 18. To be honest, I was just done with the disappointment cycle. And for the past 13 years, we've talked maybe once or twice a year, usually just awkward holiday phone calls. My life now is actually pretty good. I've been working as a software engineer at this growing tech company for 5 years and just got a pretty significant promotion. I live alone in a nice apartment in city, about 2 hours from my hometown. I started seeing a therapist about 18 months ago. Best decision ever, by the way. And she's been kind of encouraging me to work on the whole forgiveness thing with my dad. Not for him, but for my own healing or whatever. I was honestly on the fence about it. So anyway, about 3 weeks ago, I get this call out of nowhere from my dad. He was crying on the phone, saying he lost his job and was about to be evicted from his rental home. He kept saying he just needed help for a month or two until he found work again. Then he tried to make me feel guilty, bringing up how much he supposedly did for me growing up and claiming he'd never asked me for anything before, which isn't true at all. I felt really conflicted. Like, on one hand, he is my dad. On the other hand, my mom, Elena, female 55, immediately warned me to be careful about trusting him. She told me I know how he operates and shouldn't get pulled back into his games. My best friend Derek, male 32, thought maybe I should give him a chance, but set super clear boundaries. After thinking about it for a few days, I decided to help him. I figured maybe this could be that opportunity my therapist was talking about. Like, maybe helping him through this rough patch could be good for both of us. I realize how naive that sounds now. I convinced my boss to let me work remotely for 3 months so I could temporarily move back to my hometown and help pay my dad's rent until he got back on his feet. When I talked to my dad on the phone about the details, he was pretty vague. He described a modest 2-bedroom house with reasonable rent and kept mentioning all these promising job interviews he supposedly had lined up. I should have asked for specifics, but I didn't want to come across as judgmental or whatever. So I drive down last week and I pull up to this house, and it's not what I was expecting. It's this nice 4-bedroom place in one of the better neighborhoods, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe things aren't as dire as he made them sound. But then, oh God, this is where it gets weird. I knock on the door, and it's opened by this woman I've never seen before. She was maybe early 40s, blonde, and super excited to meet me. She introduced herself as Vanessa, my new stepmom. I just stood there confused. My dad never mentioned being married during any of our conversations. Not once, not even a hint. I was still standing there confused when she called for my dad. He came out of the kitchen looking thinner than I remembered, with this weird forced smile. He gave me an awkward side hug and casually mentioned that he and Vanessa had been married for 8 months now. 8 months. And he never thought to mention this. Before I could even process this, a teenage kid walked by without acknowledging me, headphones on, giving me this suspicious look. Vanessa told me that was her son Aiden, who's 16, and apparently my new brother. Then a shy little girl peeked around the corner, Zoe, female, 12, and a hyper younger boy, Liam, male 8, ran in and immediately asked if I'd brought him anything. I was just standing there completely shocked. My dad never lived alone. He has an entire family he never bothered to mention in any of our conversations about me coming to help him. Before I could pull my dad aside to talk privately, Vanessa kept saying we're all family with no secrets. My dad quickly changed the subject to my job, asking if I was making the big bucks now, with this weird look in his eye I couldn't quite place. They showed me to my room, which is actually just the unfinished basement. It's got a musty smell, concrete floors with just a thin rug, and there's this water stain on the ceiling that my dad insists isn't a leak. It totally is. It dripped on me last night during the rain. But all the actual bedrooms are taken by the kids. So, basement it is. Over the next couple days, I started noticing more concerning stuff. The fridge was practically empty. There were utility bills with shut-off notices stuffed in a drawer. And I found out my dad actually lost his job 6 months ago. Not recently like he claimed on the phone. Oh, and the rent. It's $2,200 a month. When I asked about that, my dad said he didn't want to scare me off with the details. I met the landlord when he came by to check on a plumbing issue. Mr. Patterson, male, 76. Super nice older guy. He mentioned he's planning to move to Arizona soon to be near his grandchildren. Seemed a bit concerned about my dad's situation, but didn't say much. The first family dinner was an experience. Aiden made comments about how I should buy him a gaming system since I probably have tons of money. I don't. Vanessa kept hinting about needing new furniture, and my dad just sat there, avoiding eye contact whenever money came up. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I tried to be rational about everything. I sat down and created a 3-month timeline and budget to help my dad get back on his feet. I offered to help with job applications. I was trying, you know. But then yesterday, Vanessa borrowed my credit card for what she called emergency groceries and came back with expensive wines, steaks, and new clothes for the kids. Over $300 worth of stuff. When I confronted her, calmly, she got offended and told me we're family now and family helps each other. This whole situation is bringing back memories of when I was a kid. Like when my dad promised to take me fishing for my 10th birthday. I waited all day. He never showed up. Called the next day with some excuse about his car breaking down, which I later found out was a lie. This just feels like the same old pattern. I'm starting to realize that my dad and Vanessa see me as nothing but a meal ticket, but part of me still has this stupid desire to finally earn my dad's approval. Like maybe if I help him enough, he'll finally be the father I needed him to be. I know how pathetic that sounds. Am I being played here? Should I just cut my losses and go back to my apartment? I can probably get out of the remote work arrangement if I need to. Or should I try to establish better boundaries while still helping? I honestly don't know what to do. Now for the first update. So it's been about 5 weeks since my first post. First, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who commented. I honestly wasn't expecting that many responses or awards, what the frick. I know most of you told me to just leave immediately. And yeah, I probably should have. But I stupidly convinced myself that I should try one more conversation with my dad first. That whole give people a chance to explain themselves thing my therapist is always talking about. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Anyways, right after my last post, I decided to have a serious talk with my dad. I waited until Vanessa took the kids shopping. She always seems to be shopping, by the way, and asked my dad to come out to the backyard so we could talk privately. I tried to stay super calm. I asked him why he didn't mention his wife and 3 kids before I agreed to move here. He just shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. He said he didn't think it was relevant because they're a package deal now. I was honestly shocked. I pointed out that supporting 5 people is completely different than just helping him get back on his feet. That's when he got all defensive and said I have no idea what it's like to struggle with a family. Which, are you kidding me? I reminded him that I put myself through college with 0 help from him. Like 0. I was working 2 jobs sophomore year while taking 18 credits because he completely ghosted me after promising to help with tuition. But in his version of history, he always supported me emotionally and sent money whenever he could. He didn't. My mom has the child support records to prove it. When I asked about those job interviews, he claimed to have lined up before I got here. He wouldn't even look at me. He just mumbled something about the job market being tough for someone his age and changed the subject. I offered to help update his resume, and he immediately started saying I was always the difficult one as a kid who never appreciated anything. I didn't see how he was deflecting then, but I do now. He seemed really sorry by the end of our talk, though. He promised he would actually look for work and be more transparent about finances, and like an idiot, I believed him. Again, I know. Things actually got worse over the next few weeks. Some highlights. My dad has made 0 effort to find a job. Like he literally sits and watches TV all day. I've never once seen him on his laptop looking at job sites. Not once. Vanessa's whole sweet stepmom act completely disappeared. She just started assuming I would pay for everything. Groceries, utilities, random stuff for the kids. She spent $175 on haircuts for herself and Zoe last week and just handed me the receipt like I'm her personal ATM. I found my $300 noise-canceling headphones in Aiden's room. When I calmly asked for them back, Vanessa said we should share everything as family. Share my expensive headphones with a kid who hates me? No. Vanessa orders takeout like 4 nights a week and always forgets her wallet when the delivery person arrives. So guess who pays? I called my mom Elena last week because I was starting to feel crazy. She told me some stuff that honestly made me feel sick. Apparently, my dad's child support was court mandated. I didn't know this, and he was constantly late. My mom would have to literally track him down to get payments. And get this, while he was claiming poverty to avoid paying child support, he was posting vacation photos on social media. She also told me he borrowed $500 from her last year, claiming it was for my birthday gift. A gift I never received. That really hurt me. He stole from my mom in my name. Who does that? Oh my God, this is so long already. Sorry, I'm getting worked up just typing this. The worst part is what happened 3 days ago. I came home early from the coffee shop where I'd been working. Vanessa was in the kitchen on the phone. She didn't hear me come in, and I heard her laughing about how they'd hit the jackpot with Rick's tech-rich kid. She said they might be able to coast for a year if they play their cards right. She was complaining that I asked too many questions about where the money goes. I just stood there, frozen. She kept saying my dad knows how to handle his son. I quietly went back to the basement. Later that same day, she came into the kitchen while I was making coffee and started telling me Liam needs expensive dental work that isn't covered by insurance. The way she switched from that phone call to playing the stressed-out mom was really disturbing. I started paying more attention after that, and I noticed something weird. There was barely any mail coming to the house. For a family of 5, that seemed strange. So, and yeah, I know this is questionable, I checked my dad's desk drawer when everyone was out. I found a stack of hidden mail, mostly past due notices from before he even lost his job, and a letter from Mr. Patterson, the landlord, saying he's planning to sell the house soon. I called Mr. Patterson that day. He's selling because he wants to move to Arizona to be closer to his grandkids. The house is only listed at $295,000, which is actually undervalued for the neighborhood because he wants a quick sale. I talked to my friend Derek and also called a financial advisor. And I made an offer on the house, like a real offer. Mr. Patterson accepted. We closed yesterday. I own the house now. My dad and Vanessa have no idea. I'm planning to have a conversation with them tomorrow night. I'm working with a lawyer to figure out my options here. I'm thinking of offering them a real lease at market rate, or helping them with a security deposit if they want to move somewhere else. If they refuse both, I'll have to formally evict them, which I really don't want to do, but will if necessary. I'm honestly terrified about this conversation. I know my dad is going to explode. Vanessa will probably try to manipulate the situation somehow. The kids might hate me, although Zoe and I have kind of bonded. She actually apologized for her family the other day and said this has happened before with her mom's boyfriends. I've spent over $9,000 supporting this household in just over a month. That's way more than just covering rent. I've been documenting everything and keeping receipts because part of me knew this was coming. I know I'm doing the right thing, but I'm still scared. This is my dad. And even after everything, some small, pathetic part of me still wants his approval. But I can't keep being their bank account. I'll update after the conversation tomorrow. Wish me luck. Edit. To clarify, since a lot of you are asking, yes, I can afford the house. I've been saving for a down payment for a couple years anyway, and with my promotion, I can handle the mortgage. It's actually cheaper than my apartment rent in city. I spoke with both a financial advisor and a real estate attorney before making the offer. Edit 2. Some people are asking if I'm being too harsh. Look, I get that families help each other. That's normal and healthy. But this isn't helping. It's enabling. They've shown zero effort to improve their situation. My dad hasn't applied for a single job in the 5 weeks I've been here. Not one. Edit 3. I should mention another thing I discovered. I overheard Rick and Vanessa late one night discussing how to convince me to chip in for summer camp for the kids and a family vacation they're planning. A vacation, with my money, while they've made zero effort to find jobs. Edit 4. For those asking about my relationship with my dad growing up, there was one good memory that keeps haunting me. When I was 7, he spent a whole Saturday teaching me to ride a bike. He was patient and encouraging. That's the dad I kept hoping would come back. But that version of him seems to be gone, if he was ever really there at all. Edit 5. A few of you suggested I back out of the house purchase. It's too late. We already closed. The money has been transferred. I own it now, for better or worse. Now for the second update. Okay, so it's been a couple months since everything went down, and I'm finally ready to share what happened. After purchasing the house, I immediately worked with a lawyer to make sure everything was legally sound. We prepared documents for 3 possible scenarios. I spent hours rehearsing what I was going to say with my therapist. My mom Elena was sending me supportive texts daily, and my friend Derek offered to be on standby if things got ugly. The day before my planned confrontation, the washing machine in the basement flooded. I spent like 5 hours cleaning that mess up while everyone else disappeared once they saw water. The confrontation itself went terribly. I arranged a family meeting in the living room after dinner. My dad immediately complained about the timing. Vanessa sat down reluctantly, scrolling through her phone the whole time. The kids were nearby, Aiden rolling his eyes, Zoe looking anxious, and Liam just bouncing around. I placed a folder on the coffee table and explained that I knew they'd been lying about basically everything. My dad immediately got defensive, but I kept going. I explained that I knew about the intercepted mail, the overheard conversations, everything. I saw Vanessa's expression change from annoyed to alarmed as she finally put her phone down. That's when I pulled out the property deed and placed it on the table. They both looked confused as I explained that I now owned the house. My dad's face turned red as he processed what it meant. "You went behind my back," he stammered, which is rich coming from him. Vanessa immediately shifted strategies. Suddenly, she was all about how proud they were of me taking financial responsibility. It was honestly kind of impressive how quickly she changed her approach. I outlined 3 options for their future living arrangement. 1. Sign a formal lease at market rate, $2,600 a month, plus utilities with strict terms. 2. Leave voluntarily within 30 days with me covering their security deposit elsewhere, up to $2,000. 3. Face formal eviction proceedings. That's when my dad absolutely lost it. He started shouting about me being an ungrateful brat after everything he'd done for me. Vanessa tried to calm him down while giving me a look of pure hatred. My dad kept going, saying I've always been selfish and never think about family, and bringing up random stuff from when I was a kid. I just sat there trying to stay calm, explaining that his emotional tactics weren't going to change the facts. He eventually stormed out, slamming the door hard. Vanessa switched to threats, saying they could make things very difficult for me if I tried to force them out. That's when I presented the formal eviction notice I'd prepared as a last resort. They initially refused all 3 options, thinking I wouldn't follow through. So I served them with the eviction papers. That's when things got really ugly. The next 2 months were honestly worse than I could have imagined. My dad barely spoke to me, except to make bitter comments about betrayal. Vanessa tried some petty revenge tactics, like damaging my belongings and leaving messes. I discovered a small fire in the garage that seemed suspicious. I installed security cameras after finding scratched walls and other damaged property. Aiden was openly hostile. Liam seemed confused. And Zoe increasingly started confiding in me. My dad started a smear campaign to our extended family with Facebook posts about being abandoned by my own son. I shared documented evidence with family members who reached out. I discovered from a neighbor that my dad had been bad-mouthing me to people for years. The whole time, I kept thinking about this memory I have of my dad teaching me to ride a bike when I was 7. He was so patient, running alongside me for hours until I got it. It's one of the few positive memories I have of him. As the eviction date approached, they finally scrambled to find new living arrangements, but only in the final 2 weeks. They tried to negotiate for more time, but after consulting with my lawyer, I declined. The final moving day was a complete mess. They loaded their belongings into a moving truck, leaving the house in terrible condition. Stained carpets, holes in walls, garbage everywhere. I discovered several small items missing, including some photos from my childhood. Aiden made a point of damaging a door frame while carrying out furniture. Zoe quietly approached me. She whispered an apology and asked if we could still talk sometime. Then Liam ran up and hugged me goodbye, asking if he could visit his room again sometime. That part actually broke my heart a little. My dad came back in for a final box and saw me talking to the kids. He immediately made a scene, accusing me of trying to turn his kids against him. Vanessa joined in, saying I had planned this all along. My dad made a final threat about how I'd regret this and then demanded money for improvements he claimed to have made to the house. I just stood at the door, refusing to engage, and then something strange happened. My dad suddenly just deflated. He looked older as he mumbled, "You were always just like your mother," which he meant as an insult, but I took as a compliment. Then they drove away. The aftermath has actually been kind of positive. Over the last few months, I've been renovating the house and turning it into a peaceful home. I converted the basement into a small rental unit for additional income. It actually turned out really nice once the washing machine was fixed. I set up education funds for all 3 stepchildren that they can access when they turn 18. I maintain occasional contact with Zoe through text messages. I established clear boundaries when my dad inevitably called asking for money 6 weeks later. I've reconnected with extended family who now understand the situation better. I'm continuing therapy to process my childhood abandonment issues. It's been about 6 months since the eviction, and I recently heard that my dad and Vanessa separated after she found a new relationship. He's living in a small apartment now and working at a hardware store. Zoe calls me sometimes when she needs advice about school stuff or when things get crazy with her mom. The house value has actually increased quite a bit due to the renovations and some market changes. Last month, I hosted a housewarming party with friends and chosen family. I've realized that my power wasn't in revenge, but in setting boundaries and making smart decisions. My relationship with my dad remains complicated and may never be truly healed, but I'm at peace with my decisions. The one thing I'm still wrestling with: my dad reached out last week, claiming he's changing his life and asking for one more chance to be part of my life. Says he's in therapy and has realized his mistakes. Part of me wants to believe him, but I've fallen for that before. Too little, too late.